I'll ask you 4 questions. You have 2 minutes to answer each question. Question 1. Texas being a border state, as well as having thriving ports, as well as controlling outer space travel, as well as owning the largest biocontainment lab in the world, has some security issues. What are your plans to improve and maintain the security of the sovereign state of Texas and the United States?
Great question. So we start with the premise that the borders of Texas are borders of the United States. And in our Constitution, it is the federal government's role to secure those borders. So as a Congresswoman, I would work towards that end and use whatever measures are available to us to make sure that our borders are secure. And that would include, but not be limited to, obviously enhancing the number of foot soldiers we have on the ground. Making sure that we have as much surveillance as possible, monitoring the borders, increase to the extent necessary any detainment facilities, and use whatever measures we have available to us to secure our borders, make sure Texans are safe and Americans are safe. And we also have to take a stronger stance towards enforcing our laws. No one who is a legal immigrant in this country should have any greater rights than those of us who are here legally. And we absolutely 100% have to enforce those laws, no exceptions, no excuses, no second chances. Amnesty is not an option here, Judge. We cannot allow illegal aliens to have rights in the state that we don't have ourselves. And I would even go so far as to say that I would support a movement towards having English language be the official language of our country. It doesn't make sense to me for us to have Americans who are looking for jobs. I've actually knocked on a door of a woman who is out of work. She's in her 50s and having a hard time finding a job. There are 9 jobs that one employer that she qualified for, 4 of them she was excluded from, the simple reason that she couldn't speak a foreign language. That's in our country, in our state. That's unacceptable to me. We need to have all the rights of Americans given to Americans. We need to have English as our official language. I would support that.
Question 2. Oil, black gold, Texas tea. Even Jed Clampett understood the power of oil and natural gas in today's society. Texas sits on some of the largest oil and gas reserves in the world. Our Gulf is dotted with thousands of oil rigs. Our refineries distill millions of gallons of gasoline and fuel. As Congresswoman from the 14th District of Texas, what energy policy will you support?
Energy is one of the key drivers in this state, especially in this district, for jobs. Energy independence is a key goal of mine as part of this race for Congress. We absolutely have to stop the overregulation of the energy industry. That is killing jobs. I've spoken to a number of people working in the energy industry. One today who was an executive who said the chief complaint that they had, the chief concern that they have was the uncertainty driven by the overregulation of the energy industry. We in Texas are leaders. This area in this Gulf Coast region provides approximately 40% of all jet fuel in our country. We provide 46% of all specialty chemicals, things that make crayons and plastics, right here in this region. We have to absolutely protect that and expand drilling in the Gulf. Allow companies and individuals who are willing to take their own money and risk it at their own, doing their own risk assessment, and make sure that they are able to exercise those rights without the interference of the government and provide that energy back to us as Texans and Americans. This region provides more energy and more resources, not only Texas, but to America, and it needs a strong voice in D.C. promoting that so that we can have a strong economic policy, a strong energy policy, and a strong national policy.
Question 3. The current president and the past Congress shoved a health care policy down our throats that is wasteful and unconstitutional. If elected, what specific steps will you take to not just undo this catastrophe, but to provide the world's best health care policy?
Well, I think you start with the premise that here in this region of Texas, we have some of the best health care providers in the world. And it appears to me that not only in energy, but also in health care, this president has a bullseye on the back of Texas. So first of all, you start with the premise that we absolutely have to get rid of Obamacare. And we absolutely have to understand that it is true that health care is expensive and the prices are not going up. But millions of Americans want to keep the health care they have. And I don't know about you, but I've not seen any anything that the federal government has done better than the private sector, and I'll make no exception for healthcare. They absolutely cannot provide better healthcare than the private sector. Socialized medicine is going to be the death knell of many small businesses. I've talked to them. They've said point blank no in certain terms. If Obamacare is not repealed, I will have to close my doors. It's going to cost us more money as Americans, and in the end, it's going to be do a great service to the Americans who are dependent upon their jobs because they're going to lose them. Many of them are seniors, small families, and small business owners. So, main thing we have to do here is make sure we get rid of it. If we don't get rid of it, look at what Congress can do. That's why we have 3 branches of government. We're going through the judicial branch right now to challenge it. Congress can come back, in my view, and take measures to change it. But we've got to have a strong Republican Congress. We've got to have strong conservative voices. And we're going to have to work together in Congress to get that done.
Question 4. Economics deals with unlimited demand and limited supply. Our country's current handling of our government's budget does not reflect the understanding of a limited supply. CD14 has its share of special projects, also known as earmarks or pork. How will you balance the needs of your constituents against the need for a balanced budget?
Great question. I think you have to start with the premise that in any big problem, you don't solve it overnight. It's going to be like you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Balance what we need against what we feel we need when it comes to money. Work with the constituents here in Galveston County, in Brazoria County, in Jefferson County. Understand their needs. Work with the colleagues that I will have to work with in Congress to make sure that they understand our needs. We are taken care of here in Texas because we are critical not only to Texas, but again, to the United States of America, and in terms of energy and in terms of healthcare, we're internationally recognized, and we have to have the support of our Congress for the measures that make us so great.
Thank you, Felicia Harris. By the way, while we're waiting for the other